In this video, we will learn how to convert the frequency distribution for the quantitative data to the percent frequency distribution and the relative frequency distribution. So after you use the histogram command under the data analysis, and you should get this frequency distribution for your quantitative data. And so now we want to see how can we convert the frequency distribution to the relative frequency and the percent frequency distribution. And before we started, we should know the two formulas. The first is relative frequency distribution is equal to each frequency divided by the total sample size. For the percent frequency distribution, it's equal to the relative frequency times 100 and add 1 and the percentage sign, and then we will convert the relative frequency to percent frequency distribution. So we know after we get the frequency distribution, we can get the total sample size by doing this. If we add all this number together, we should get the total sample size. So we will use sum as our command to sum all this number together. So we have 120 observation. As we mentioned in the previous video, here we are talking about the GPA for the first year for the freshman GPA, and we have 120 students to participating in this survey, so we should have 120 as our total sample size. Now let's convert the frequency to the relative frequency distribution. We'll do the similar procedure as what we done for the categorical data. So first, let's name the third column as our relative frequency. So we will use the frequency to each class divided by the total sample size. And we know for each classes, the denominator doesn't change. And what we will do is we will put the dollar sign behind, in front of the B and 7. So we just find the F4 on your keyboard, F4, and push the button on your keyboard, F4. But make sure before you push the button F4, put your mouse before B7. So now we got the relative frequency for the first class is 0.008333, and then what we will do is drag down. When the cross changes to the original cross is the white, and when we move to the right down corner, and the cross will change to the black cross, and we will left click your mouse, hold your mouse, and drag it down to the last class. Now we create our relative frequency distribution. So now based on the formula here, and we'll convert the relative frequency distribution to percent frequency distribution. And what we will do is first type in equal sign, use each class's relative frequency times 100. And we will get 0.833 is our first class percent frequency. And now we can move our mouse to right down corner and drag it down. So now we finish to create our percent frequency distribution. Here I want to emphasize how can you read those bin range. So the bin range is the upper limit of our for each classes. So for the first class, here is the GPA. So the first class here showing us is the GPA range between 0 to 1, and then it's include 1. And the second class, the upper limit is 2 and the lower limit is 1. So it's from 1 And the third classes is the range between 2 to 3. The last class is three. It's large and larger than 3 but not equal to 3, and the last class is more than 4. So that is all your 5 classes. The first class is 0 to 1, second class is 1 to 2. The bin range is telling the Excel your upper limit for each class. So by doing this, and you can copy the last 2 column D and E, to make your percent frequency distribution.